This is the Darren Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz.
Paltrocast.
I've been interviewing musicians, comedians, and all sorts of entertainers for almost 20 years. Joan Rivers, Flavor Flav, Paris Hilton, members of Guns N' Roses and the Eagles, and countless others. This show is about artists and why they do what they do.
Paltrocast.
For this episode of the Paltrocast, I spoke with a bunch of artists from very different walks of life. This includes Cobra Kai star William Zabka, singer-songwriter Lucy Woodward, legendary journalist and television host Dan Rather, and two members of Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band. First up are highlights from my phone interview with William Zabka. Odds are that you first became aware of him as Billy Zabka from his work in great hit movies like The Karate Kid, Back to School, and National Lampoon's European Vacation. But there's a lot more to the guy because he's a musician, he's an Oscar-nominated director, and he's from a very interesting show business family.
Hey, Darren.
How's it going there?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
Great, thank you very much. Are you calling from Los Angeles?
I am calling from Los Angeles. Where are you at?
I'm on Long Island, New York. Have you ever been out here before? I believe you were born in New York, correct?
Yeah, I'm from Fort Washington. What part of Long Island are you on?
Long Beach, Long Island.
Oh, right on. Yeah, man, I'm a Long Islander at heart, man. I moved when I was 10 years old. Born in the city, raised in Long Island, and moved to California when I was about 10.
Wow, I didn't realize that. I mean, going into your family history, did that have to do with your dad working on the original Tonight Show and the Tonight Show being in New York back then?
Yes, my folks met on the Tonight Show. My mom was Dick Carson's assistant. My dad was the associate director of the Tonight Show. So they met in the control room then, and my dad was a director, a senior director on staff at NBC for many years. New York, about 20 years. And when I was a kid, he would bring me into the city from Long Island on the train, and I would walk on the sets of the Tonight Show and the doctors, some soap operas he was doing, some game shows, and I was exposed to all the magic of TV and film at a young age. And then he moved to California and got transferred to NBC out here in California. So we all uprooted, and then I turned into a California boy slowly.
Right. Now, I also read in your family history that you have worked with your dad's publishing company over the years. Is that still the case?
Yeah, he's still, I don't know if these companies still open. His music is still out there. My dad wrote the original Tonight Show theme for Jack Parr. And then he wrote he composed many scores for television back in the day. He wrote a famous Christmas song, Christmas Eve in My Hometown, that was sung by Kate Smith and Bobby Vinton and Jim Nabors and a number of people, and it's being recorded even today. Eddie Fisher made it famous too back in the day when it was early recordings. So Big Island Music was involved with television and radio and film and music, and I was part of that. The company as a company isn't working right now, but all his music is out there and being licensed, used, and heard every Christmas season and all over the place. So yeah, we're a tight family, and my dad still has his music out there.
And do you yourself have musical genes? Have you ever written songs?
I have. I was raised in a musical family, clearly. My brother turned into a composer, and he went the piano route, and I took guitar lessons and actually got a degree in guitar music, and I was a session player and trained to be a session player. Didn't actually do sessions, but read music, play lead guitar, electric guitar, played in many bands growing up. My dad he had one foot as a AD and a production manager for films. He worked with Clint Eastwood and De Niro, and he also had another foot in the musical world. And my brother took off in the musical direction, and I more went in the film direction. We kind of split the baby, and my brother's out doing music in Nashville, and I'm here doing film and television in California. My dad happily retired up in Grass Valley, California, near Lake Tahoe.
Wow. Well, I want to come back to that in a little bit after I ask you a little bit about Cobra Kai, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so with Cobra Kai, I think it opened up a lot of people's eyes as to how awesome Johnny Lawrence was. You know, people who liked bad guy characters always loved Johnny Lawrence, but once the YouTube video and things of that nature came out, people definitely got a perspective change. But I'm curious when you first found out about the backstory of Johnny Lawrence.
Well, as we know it in the Cobra Kai show, the new creators, Josh, John, and Hayden, really wrote in and kind of detailed what I carried from the first film. When I did The Karate Kid, there wasn't much about his parents, about his family life, but I surmised that Johnny didn't have a good family home, and that Kreese was very much his mentor and somewhat of a father figure. The detail of that has been fleshed out in Cobra Kai, and that's all from the imaginations and the genius of John and Josh and Hayden, and them diving deeper into having Sid as a stepfather and what that looked like. And so that all came from them. But I think they saw a video that I did on the 20th anniversary DVD of The Karate Kid, where I talked a little bit about how I viewed Johnny and how I stepped into the character and didn't see him as a bad guy. Even though he was the antagonist of the film, I saw him having a little more dimension, and they picked up on that, and that was one of the seeds of their inspiration for the show, was to flush out what Johnny's about. And there's kind of a behind every bully is it is a victim, and in a way, as people turn into things, it's downloaded. The behavior that people have when they're treating each other badly is typically downloaded from somewhere, sibling or social environment, school or whatever. And mostly, for the most part, people aren't all bad. So they really wanted to turn him inside out and create a platform for him to be more dimensional and human. And that was something that I said when I went into it from the very beginning, that I didn't have any interest in, being set up to take a fall or to turn into the ultimate villain of all time. That in order for this to work, that he'd have to be deep and wide and have a lot of perspective, and they served that up for me in the writing, and it was a lot of fun to play.
Right, it comes across that way, and I'm curious how much of a refresher was needed for you to get back into shape to do martial arts and all that.
Yeah, well, I've been training on and off for all this time since the film, but it took it was a quick turnaround. By the time we sold this show to production, wasn't much time, a few months. So I jumped back into it hard right away, and had a great trainer, Hito Koda, and his wife, Janelle, who's amazing. And they got me back into fighting shape fast. And, of course, with my workout program and all my fitness I did on the side, it's like cardio and my diet and all that. And so it took a couple months to get ready for the show, especially for that first opening fight scene at the outside the Mini Mart.
Now, did you get into martial arts in the first place because something inspired you, or is it from a fitness angle? What got you into it in the first place?
Well, the film The Karate Kid, because when I got cast, I didn't know any karate. I was a wrestler in high school, and that's about the extent of my combat skills. So when they cast me for the film, I was blown away that I was chosen to play the All Valley former champion of the Valley, because I didn't know any karate. So I started on the film. It was all having an amazing teacher, Pat Johnson, who is the referee in The Karate Kid, with the mustache. He's the one that trained both Ralph and I, and he's just a grandmaster, legend, martial artist, and he trained me the right way, and he would train me the way Kreese would have trained me. And so I got a crash course in it, and his presentation. And I mean, these guys, these martial artists, that could tear you apart with their pinky, are the nicest guys on the planet. You would never know what they're carrying, what kind of punch they pack, so to speak. And to meet these guys as gentlemen, as good-natured, loving masters, I was instantly taken into it, and it was infected from the very beginning of shooting Karate Kid, and I stayed with it for a number of years after the film. And then I was working, and I couldn't stay in the training, but then I'd go back into a martial arts film, and I'd get brushed up with a bunch of new great martial artists and world champions, and it just became a part of my life. And I can't imagine my life, despite the Karate Kid, I can't imagine my life without karate, martial arts, and the discipline and that it gives, and the sense of yourself, and all the confidence, and being in touch with your body, which is really what it is. It's like a dancer, an athlete has that. It's just to be in control of your center and to have a balance in your life. It's an incredible art form.
Now, the reviews on the show, as far as I've seen, are just excellent across the board. A lot of people are anticipating, oh, it's another reboot. Full House even got rebooted.
Yeah.
But were you surprised when the reviews came across as so positive and people were focusing on you as just such a strong lead in any way? Was that surprising?
Sure, it was surprising. We had no idea what the response was going to be. I can just tell you that when we did the film, everybody jumped into their characters, and we never could have anticipated that it would become so beloved, and this many years later, 35 years later, still be touching people. And so, we could never have seen that coming, but with the show to see how it's taken off and the feedback and the reviews, they're flattering, honestly, and they're very humbling, and we're excited mostly that people are enjoying the show. And it's the reviews are fantastic and exciting to read, but it's more about touching people, and I love to hear what the fans have to say. I love to see kids that are getting into martial arts and young men that tell me, hey man, I relate so much to Johnny. I just went through this kind of train wreck in my life, and I've been down on my luck, and to see Johnny pull himself up from the bootstraps and try to make it work again, in spite of himself and all of his shortcomings, is giving me hope. And that's the stuff that I get excited about. But I'm thrilled that the character has dimension, and he's not the same guy from the film. He's 30 years older. He's got 30 years of life from then to now, and he's really in many ways a whole new character, but with just the backstory of the Karate Kid. So that's the kind of round answer, but we're thrilled that people are responding to it positively, and that's the best feeling.
And another one of your iconic films was Back to School. And I'm curious if Rodney Dangerfield was as fun to work with as it seems like he was.
He was great to work with, and I met Rodney in an elevator on the way to Madison, Wisconsin, filming Back to School. I just got off the plane, going to my hotel room, and he was heading to the sauna, and he had his hair sticking up, and he was in a robe, and we had a fun exchange, and he was great. All these comedians, Pat Morita, Chevy Chase, I had a chance to work with, and Rodney. They're comedians, and there's so much energy coming from them. But he was also very, very endearing, and he had that sort of soft side, and there's a little tragedy a little bit with comedians, and sometimes, and we got to be good friends actually on that movie. And at Christmas, I remember putting in his motorhome. I gave him a Christmas card, and just said Merry Christmas, and stuck in his motorhome and thought nothing of it. And at the wrap party in Malibu, we had a big wrap party at this beach. And I remember eating dinner. Rodney was sitting at another table far away, and I was in the middle of my dinner. I felt a hand on my shoulder, and there was Rodney, and he said, I just want to say thank you for that Christmas card you gave me. He goes, nobody does that, and I just want you to know that it meant a lot. And I was really touched by that. So he was great and very human, and also that film. I always say if I had to shoot something again right now, what would it be? I always say Back to School, because that film was such a party. All the energy that you saw with Downey and Sam Kinison and Keith Gordon and all that was just so much fun. And Rodney really it was a lot of fun to be around on set. He was electric.
And beyond acting, you've achieved success as a director. Do you have any directing projects that you can talk about, or upcoming projects in general besides Cobra Kai?
I have a number of projects that I've been brewing and developing behind the scenes that I'm still working on. Actually got put on hold when Cobra Kai came around, because Cobra Kai took center stage. But I'm definitely, I wrote it and produced a short film a number of years back that was nominated for an Oscar, and I really enjoyed that process of being behind the camera and crafting and being the composer and not the violin playing his part. So there's definitely that hunger in me, and now it's been a couple of years since I've done any directing and behind the camera. So I'm definitely getting the itch and looking for the right time and place and the right project to put out. Also as an actor too, because this has opened a lot of doors for me just in front of the camera. So I'm weighing all of the options, and meantime, I'm super focused on the show because we shoot, for a good quarter of the year, and then we have post for the next one, and then we're in press, and then hopefully we go back soon. And there's just a little bit of time for me personally, but we'll find that right time and project to do, and I can't wait for that. But right now, it's all about birthing Cobra Kai and making sure that lands and sticks well, and not trying to split my focus and take my energy away from that.
Right on. So in closing, any last words for the kids?
Any last words for the kids? The kids of the world, you mean?
Sure.
Well, I think, this show is a great example and demonstration of relationships and parenting and mentorship. And we're all looking for somebody to lead us and to get us through this world, this life, and unfortunately, hopefully we can bump into somebody that has a positive influence on us that's been down the road before. So I would say choose your mentors wisely and, ask a lot of questions and go for it. I always say, to kids when I meet them, to dream big, because anything can happen. I remember being 10 years old, moving to California, and I started doing commercials when I was 12 years old, was my first commercial. And I always had a dream in my heart that, I would do this someday, that I would be an actor someday. That would be my life. And when you're that young and you're looking up, and I met people like Chuck Norris, my dad worked with Chuck Norris, and I remember him crashing through a door on a set sometime, and the way he came up and kind of patted my head and, and just touched me. And I did a movie when I was 14. I was a stand-in on a movie called The Island with Michael Caine and David Warner. And I remember these, mega stars who I looked up to just taking the time to be nice and to talk nicely. And I always dreamed that, maybe one day that'll be me. And somehow, I don't know how all the way, because you can't plan your path, but stick to your dreams and don't be afraid to take chances, and don't be afraid to fail, and have some faith. And the river knows where it's going, I always say, life's river somehow knows where it's going. So choose your people wisely, choose your friends wisely, choose people that you look up to wisely. And it goes fast. Before you know it, you're an adult, and then you're that guy. So pick your team, and good luck, and I'm rooting for you.
Really, it is my favorite show on TV right now, or whatever you want to call TV. So thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, man. Have a great day. Say hi to Long Island for me, all right?
Will do. Take care. Next up are highlights from my recent phone call with Lucy Woodward, who recently released the album titled Music, 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 with iconic guitarist Charlie Hunter. Over the years, Lucy's been an in-demand session and touring singer, and her credits include Rod Stewart, Snarky Puppy, Barbra Streisand, Celine Dion, Pink Martini, the list goes on and on and on, but that's beyond having some hit singles of her own as a solo artist. I caught up with Lucy on the eve of the release of Music, 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 hope I'm saying that one okay, while she was staying in Greensboro, North Carolina. A song like Can't Let Go is like it's just an obvious single. When in the process did that song come along to you?
I've been singing Can't Let Go just for fun for years with my own band and just sitting in. It's an easy tune that you could just kind of jump in with anybody and sing it. But I love this song. It's so simple. It's Lucinda Williams, written by Randy Weeks, and I think it may have been her biggest hit. I'm not sure, but everyone kind of knows it or they're familiar with it, and I just always felt it could go so many directions, like slow and bluesy or up-tempo swing. I've done it like in jazz trios. And I was like, Charlie, what do you think about this thing? When we were putting together our repertoire for our set and the album, and for the road, I just threw this tune out at him, and he was like, I love it. So it just turned naturally into this kind of funk thing. It went through different tempos and grooves, and we used to do it really, really fast. And then he just found this kind of, he's just like the funk maestro. And I don't know, at times, and sometimes it's different every night, but at times it can sound like the Bee Gees. And it's super fun to sing. So it's pretty natural. And it does change the groove every night a little bit, but it always keeps that funk is always up there. Had
you and Charlie known each other for a long time?
No, actually. We'd known of each other, but we met through Snarky Puppy friends. We both put out a record on Michael League is a band leader, bass player of Snarky, and he has a label called Ground Up, and we both put out a solo record on that label. And we met at the Ground Up Festival maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And we were both performing. And then about a year ago, he was scheduled to do a tour with an amazing Mexican artist that he produced and worked with. He was really young, and he was set to go on tour with her last January. And 4 days before the tour, her visa got denied. So he was brainstorming, and somebody from Ground Up said, call Lucy. She, we both come from the blues, so we thought it would be a cool match. He just was like, hey, do you remember me, Charlie Hunter? I was like, of course I do, dude. So that was it. 4 days later, I was on a plane, and we were touring like every night. We kind of threw the set together over a bunch of texts, and there it was. So it was a very fast, very trusting relationship immediately, but we hadn't really known each other that long, just through friends.
So you're both, solo artists, but also side people. Is this a band, or is this, taking it one day at a time, touring together and recording together?
Well, it's a band duo project. I've never done this before, and he's worked and collaborated with a lot of people, but he's always been Charlie Hunter or Charlie Hunter Trio, and he's had a couple of projects where it was like a band name, and I've certainly never done that. I've always been like Lucy, and so it's a real relief in the sense of there are shared responsibilities, and you can bounce off ideas with another person that's not just like, someone you play with. Like, what do you think of? Like, this is actually us bouncing off ideas about the for the well-being of the project, bigger picture and everything. So it is, I'm going to say it's bandy, bandesque, but there's just no band name. So it's Charlie Hunter and Lucy Woodward. So it's duo, but we'll always play with a drummer. So it's really a trio. So I don't know. I have no idea, but it has a very band-like quality, and you can tell on stage that we're a unit for sure. I mean, it's like too much fun. It's not, we're both very featured, and it's certainly a collaborative effort.
So what does the immediate future look like? Just a bunch of gigs scheduled, you and him, once the album comes out?
The album is out April 19th, and the pre-order is out now, but we're basically on tour pretty much for the rest of the year. So I'm in Greensboro now, and we're on a day off today. And then we have, I think, 5 shows this week, day off next Sunday, maybe 5 or 6 shows the following week. And then we're going to break for May. And I'm going to go to Europe and do some of my own things there that I had scheduled, some big dance things and my own shows there. And then he's going to meet me in Holland in June, and we're going to do a little 10-day Europe tour. And then come back to the U.S. We'll do a whole month, exactly a month from July to August. U.S. and then back to Europe in September. Back October, back to Europe in September. Every other month we're in U.S., the U.S. or Europe. So we're doing this. It's actually happening, and it all came from like a little, will you jump on my little tour to fill in for this girl who couldn't make it? No, I mean they need to tour together one day, but it's just like funny little accidents that happen.
Right. So does that in a way derail all the side work that you like to do? Or does this all teach you to take things more one day at a time?
Interesting. I mean, this is definitely a one day at a time, but it kind of shifts your whole perspective in the sense of, we're committed to this. So, we're both, as far as sidemen, I don't even know if I have I want to just focus on this for the year, and we're even talking about the next record already, but I'm not even sort of home enough to take sideman work. I actually haven't done that, Darren, in a while now, because I've been just constantly on the road. But we both, I don't know, I guess when we're playing with other people, it's I haven't sung backgrounds in a long time, which is, I kind of miss it, but it's kind of refreshing also just to really hone in and focus on what I need to be doing. So I think every record is like that. When you make a new record, you hone in on what you need, what the job is, what needs to be done in that time. Whether, when I was singing with Rod Stewart, you're on that tour, you're on that record, you're doing that thing. And then when you're making your own record, it's your own kind of path. Of course, it's your job to make the best shows possible and do what you need to do to get it out there. So I'm like that. It's just kind of a state of mind with every project, with every record. It's hard to actually put into words because I haven't thought about it. It's just something you do. You're just like, okay, here I am present, go, So that's why I'm mumbling or fumbling for the words because I never really thought about it.
Right. Well, your last few records have been interesting in that they've all been in different directions from each other, but at the same time, they all sound like Lucy Woodward records. So has your taste changed in the past few years in terms of what you like to listen to, or is it just a coincidence and everything happens in the studio?
I think so much what keeps all these records connected is whether they're covers or whether I've written the songs or co-written the songs, is that they're all my voice connecting them. And of course I go through stages of only listening to Zeppelin, or then only listening to Emily King, or then only listening to Shaka. And so if someone wanted me to sing Billie Holiday one day and Janis Joplin and sound like a Janis Joplin, kind of voice the next day, it's just what I did. So for many years, that was my job. And then I remember one day I thought, I don't even know what my sound is anymore because I'm just so busy doing other people's sounds. So I actually had to stop. This is years ago now, but I had to stop doing that because I had to stop taking certain or slow down in the session world because I really didn't know who I was. And yet I wanted to go out and get a record deal and, do gigs, but I lost focus of what my sound was, or maybe I didn't even have a sound yet because I was so busy imitating other people. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse. Paid the bills, I loved my job, but it was a point when I had to stop. So when I started, making records and getting a record deal or losing a record deal, of course, because that always happens, then I had to hone in what the, sound was of these records. And sometimes it was super organic. So if we would do a song like Can't Let Go, even on the Charlie Hunter record. It's a song I've been doing for a long time live. Naturally, it takes its shape with different bands, different cities, different countries. Everyone reacts to that song in a different way, but you do it enough that you make it your own. I've never recorded it before, so it felt right to do that with Charlie because you're like, man, this everyone loves this song. Even if they don't know it, they love the song because it's just up and cool, So I think that putting songs together for any of my records, whether they're covers or not, I usually lived in them a while before recording them. So maybe once in a while I would write a song and I would just go record it. But living with the songs on the road, seeing how they feel in front of an audience, that was always really a good gauge for me to see if it was kind of worth it, or you get your feel, you just live in it a little bit more. And as a singer, that's really, I guess for any musician, that's just supernatural to do.
Right on. So any last words for the kids?
Any last words for the kids? Pay for your music. This is the one thing I've been saying for 15 years. Buy music. Don't do everything for free. Don't get everything for free. And, let those songwriters and artists get what they deserve. So pay for it, people. No, is that negative of me? No, it's actually the truth.
Next up is my chat with the Reverend Peyton and Washboard Breezy Peyton. They are 2/3 of the Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band. I saw this group at this year's Clearwater Sea Blues Festival in Clearwater, Florida, and they blew me away. I had the chance to speak with the Reverend and Breezy backstage after their show, and huge thanks go out to the band's tour manager, Shane S. Ferguson, for making the interview happen. Earlier today, I saw you fishing, and I heard you talking about fishing on stage. Do you tour with fishing rods in your van?
About 15 of them. Yeah,
all different types of fishing since we're traveling all over. So we got sea stuff, we got fly stuff, we got freshwater stuff.
Yeah, we're set up from fly fishing for trout to control for sailfish. Pretty much everything.
Wow, and have you been fishing your whole lives, both of you?
Yeah, been fishing longer than I've been playing guitar. I've been playing guitar a long time.
Wow. So when did people start calling you Reverend?
When I was about 18. Yeah, 17 or 18, something like that.
And have you always known him to be Reverend the whole time?
Yep. I mean, that's what all his buddies called him.
No, that's what my mom calls
Okay.
me. My mom calls me Rev.
So is this your first time in Clearwater?
I don't know.
Have we played Clearwater proper?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I've been here. I vacationed here when I was a kid.
We went and fished that pier last night, and I never fished that pier, and I would remember something like that. We fished a lot of piers in Florida, man. I don't think we've ever been to Clearwater and fished. I got to thinking about it. I was like, I don't know how we missed it. I think we drove by one time.
Tampa and St. Pete, though, for sure.
We drove by one time. I'm positive of this. We drove through one time because I remember the way like the roundabouts are right there by the pier, and it was too much of a hassle to park. We were going to eat lunch there and said, forget it, and we kept going. So we got real lucky last night because we had the van with the trailer. If I had to do over again, I would not have brought the trailer. I would have dropped it somewhere. But we got real lucky, found spaces. Didn't have to walk too far. It was kind of a miracle. It was a zoo there last night. Absolute zoo. There was a million people. It was fun. That pier is one of the best fishing piers I've ever been on. We've been on a lot of them too.
Sure.
It has lights in the water, like big bright lights, and it lures in the fish. Like every pier should have.
But
it.
it closed at 10. Next week they start being 24 hours, but for some reason.
So they kicked everybody off at 10, so we only fished 2 hours, so we were a little bit disappointed. We figured them out too. It was like right then we started catching, figured them out. And then they're like, everybody off the pier.
So you'll have to come back ultimately.
Yeah.
Well, we hope to. Have us back.
And then a question over to you about the washboards. I had the pleasure last year of touring the Columbus Washboard Factory.
That's who custom makes mine.
Really?
Yep, I've got the only washboard sponsorship in the world. So yeah, they custom make mine, so they're like special ones to my specs that they silk screen our logo and stuff on. But they've been a big supporter of us for a long time, so.
When you
they're the only one in
say
America.
to your specs, meaning you went to the factory, they measured your hands. Tell
No,
me about
you
that.
choose what type of wood you want, what type of metal, because you can get them from glass to galvanized steel to stainless steel. How you want the ridges, there's different ridges, you know. Not all washboards are the same, so. And there's a big sound difference too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've played all different kinds, so I
We
prefer those.
like the way they have 2 or 3 different ridge designs, and the one that she plays is the one we like the best. It's the most pleasing to our ears anyway.
How many washboards do you own?
I go through
Wow.
about 100 a year.
Go through 100 a year.
Yeah.
So when you start a tour, do you have 100 in your van? Do you have 3?
They mail them to us on tour, so they're
We
pretty
travel
good about
with a
it.
dozen.
We travel with a dozen or so, keep some in storage, but you know, a lot of times after the show, we sell it at the merchandise table and sign it. But also, if I play more than 3 shows on them, I wear a hole through the metal, so
Wow.
it sounds best when they're fresh.
Was that your first instrument?
Yeah, I mean, I sang growing up. I did a lot of singing and stuff. Messed around with other percussion, but really washboard was my first. I play drums now, but you know, we have a drummer, so that's not needed. But and I'm definitely better at the washboard than drums. Maybe someday I'll be better at drums.
God, so what does the rest of 2019 look like for the band?
Well, right now we're going to be going to Europe twice. Lots of festivals in the summer. We'll be playing I don't know how many different countries. You know, it's France is April. Headline the Juke Joint Fest in Clarkston, Mississippi again. Man, lots of stuff. Hopefully, we got nominated for a BMA Blues Music Awards, so we're hoping to be at the awards then in May for that. And then, man, just lots of touring, covering a lot of ground. It looks like we're gonna be real busy, so it's cool. We got this record that's out, trying to get people to listen to it.
Well, going back to the show that you did earlier, do you have a festival set versus a club set?
Kind of. I mean, we only play. It's a shorter set, so this was just an hour. So you have to kind of plan on, try to get everything that you want to say in an hour. You know what I mean? So it.
I mean, we put the same amount of energy into each show, but we might change the songs a little bit. It depends on whether we're playing to our audience or a new audience, too. That changes a little bit. But
Yeah, and also, too, I think certain songs work better in an enclosed space, and certain songs work better when you're playing outdoors to infinity. You know what I mean? Like, so you have to kind of think of it that way too. You know, they had that big TV screen behind us, then that helps. You know, I was happy that they had that because that always helps grab people in the very back. They can see.
Right.
You know, so that was good.
Well, when you say we had to play a shorter set, only an hour, a lot of bands, an hour would actually be a really long set. Like if you saw a Ramon show
That's
for
right,
an hour.
Yeah. That'd be a long time, yeah. So it's all relative. And then if you go see some like hippie jam band, they play like 4 hours, you know, but they only play 3 songs, so it, you know, it's all relative.
Well, can you comfortably play a 3-hour show, or is that something that
not like we
do?
It would
not like we do. I mean, we don't really play covers either, so we play all original music, so that makes a difference.
Because our show's intense. Kicking stuff over and running around and dancing and stuff. Like if we were just standing staring at our feet, maybe, you know.
and that leads also to the fact that you did something on stage I've never seen done before, a 7th inning stretch.
Yeah.
When did that find its way into your set?
Well, I mean, I don't know. If people are sitting down, I always make them stand up. That's just it. That's all.
We don't play a lot of shows where people are sitting down, so. You know, sometimes you deal with that at festivals, especially when they get that
well, they have VIP
area.
seating area. Normally at festivals that you would never sit down.
It helps.
You know, so. Yeah, I don't like playing to people sitting down. American music should never be listened to sitting down. All American music at its heart and center and core is dance music. From blues to rock and roll to country to bluegrass to old time, jazz, R&B, hip hop, it's all dance music at its start. The only music that is American music that is not dance music is maybe like really boring, terrible folk music. And we have nothing to do with that.
I think that's the line of everything. The American music should be not listened to.
American music is dance music at its core, and American music is the music of the rest of the world.
Not going to top that.
There is nothing. Go back to the beginning, the start of every genre of American music, and it is dance music at its start. The beginning of rock and roll, every other song had its own dance. The beginning of blues was all about dancing. The beginning of jazz was all about dancing. I mean, every other song had its own dance. You go back to the beginning of country music. Country used to only be listened to in these giant circular rooms, so that people could dance in a circle, like actual dance with each other. And you go back and you listen to old time music. You know, there's all it's all dance music, all of it. You know, people like calling there was a barn dance or a juke joint or whatever. It all is dance music at its core. And somehow people have kind of forgotten that in a lot of ways, especially after a certain age. But you know, like if you go to a hip hop show, I mean that's the deal. You know what I mean? It's dance music. It's what it is. All American music is dance music. You know, R.L. Burnside said blues ain't nothing but dance music. You know, it is. That's the way it is.
Wow, deep. So, in closing, any last words for the kids?
I don't know, man. Check us out. Follow us on YouTube. We got lots of cool videos on our YouTube channel. We, we're always trying to add more stuff. You know, people should stay up. You have to follow us on all of the social media stuff because of the algorithms. They bury us now. You know, so you got to follow us everywhere and get on our email list too.
Finally, you'll hear highlights from a recent media call in which legendary journalist and television host Dan Rather answered some questions that I had for him. Dan Rather is the host of the acclaimed Access TV series The Big Interview, in which he interviews top entertainers. Prior guests have included Kid Rock, Sammy Hagar, Steve Perry, Weird Al Yankovic, Billy Bob Thornton. Again, the list goes on and on. It's a great show. And Dan was every bit as genuine as I could have hoped him to be.
Our next question here comes from our good friend Darren Paltrowitz with the Paltrocast and many other websites he works with. On the subject of The Big Interview, you have interviewed a lot of top musicians. When did you first become a fan of music?
Well, I've always been a fan of music, but keep in mind that I grew up in Texas in the 1930s and early 1940s. And for the early part of my life, if Hank Williams or Ernest Tubb or Roy Acuff didn't sing it, I didn't know it. But later on, I want to emphasize I've never been musically inclined. That is, I don't play an instrument, which was to my late mother's chagrin that she gave me lessons and everything, but nothing took. But at any rate, as life went on, I developed a liking for just about all kinds of music. think it's fair to say, in fact, I know it's fair to say that I know least about classical music. But in later years, I have become acquainted with opera and classical music. And for rock and roll, like nearly everybody else, I got onto it fairly early in the 1950s with the likes of Elvis. But, I do want to emphasize that my knowledge about music has never been very broad or deep. By doing the big interviews, it's increased some. But I don't play an instrument. I couldn't carry a tune in a bucket with a lid on it, which is one reason I enjoy doing these big interviews. That by the time one gets through with the homework, and I'm pretty much a homework kid in the preparation, and then do the interviews, it's been a real education for me.
All right. Our next question here is a bit of a fun one from Darren Paltrowitz. He says, you are famously associated with the REM song, What's the Frequency, Kenneth? Are you aware of any other songs that reference you, and was that song a big honor within your career?
Well, first of all, certainly I remember the REM song, What's the Frequency, Kenneth? I'm not aware of any other songs that reference me. I'm not saying there aren't any, but I'm not aware of any. And was that a big honor within my career? You bet. To have a song done by REM in which you're mentioned, is that an honor? You bet.
Thanks for listening to the Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz on the Pure Grain Audio Network. More information on the Paltrocast can be found online at www.puregrainaudio.com. Until next time, have a great Shabbos.